$6,000 is a lot of money for any photographer, and it's really hard to justify that price point when you're buying a camera that has a fixed lens. That means you can't ever switch it. You're practically stuck with that lens. You're married to it. If you're new to the channel, for the last 4 years, I've been a freelance videographer. I've filmed bodybuilders, weddings, behind the scenes for music videos, and currently filming wildlife. And I've had this running joke with myself that I am a videographer first and a photographer last.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Now, I love the process of taking photos, but it's never been my sole source of income. That has been videography. So if I'm not a photographer and I don't consider myself a photographer, why in the world would I buy a Leica Q2? It seems a little ridiculous, and well, to be honest with you guys, I do a lot of ridiculous things like...
Oh, you crazy!
I am! This is not going to be a review on the Leica Q2. I am not a reviewer by any means, and there's tons of great reviews on this camera online already. I really just want to share my personal thoughts of bonding with the Leica Q2 since I've bought it. I also didn't buy it brand new. I did buy it used from a friend online, so keep that in consideration when I'm talking about these things. I don't want you guys to go out and spend $6,000 just because I said so if it's not something that you're going to absolutely bond with like I have. What really caught my attention was three things: the form factor, 47 megapixels, and the fixed 28mm lens. I've never shot on something that did on a system that wouldn't allow me to switch lenses, and I found that to be super intriguing. At the time, I wanted to do street photography, and I noticed that most street photographers use 28mm to about 35mm. So for me, it seemed like it was a really great camera to experiment with, travel, and kind of try out a new style. I know I probably sound crazy because I'm here like, yeah, I want to experiment with a new camera, and it's like $6,000. But hear me out. The layout on this camera is super simple, and I really love that. Aperture, shutter speed, and ISO are just fingertips away, so you can make those manual adjustments, which I really enjoy. A big reason why I actually shoot Canon, for example, is I found their system to be the simplest and easiest to use. Let's talk about the make or break as well while we're on this topic, the 28mm lens. For a lot of people, that's a really big commitment to spend this much money on a camera that you can't swap lenses for. And I definitely understand that. But for me, I think a lot of the times people don't talk about exactly what you're getting with that lens. I mean, it's a Summilux lens at f1.7. So this camera has been incredibly sharp, even in the lowest of lights when I'm out there shooting. And at 47 megapixels, it is just incredibly sharp. Like, I took some photos and played that game where you're like, let me zoom in as much as I can to see if it starts looking bad. And it just doesn't. It doesn't look bad at all. And it's incredible the amount of detail that you get with this lens. So yes, you are sacrificing the ability to put different lenses for different scenarios. But I think once you settle into it and you realize what your range is with this camera, you can produce some great images. And the photos that I have gotten with this camera so far, in my opinion, have been the best work I've done of all time. And talking about image quality, although the photos are incredible, the file sizes are extremely big. I've actually had issues editing photos on my iPad, for example. A lot of the times it may crash if I'm doing some heavier edits on it. But I normally shoot with the JPEG and the DNG file, so I get both of them. The DNG file, being the biggest one at 80 megabytes, is gonna maybe give you a rough time, so definitely keep that in mind with your system, whatever you're editing on, because it could definitely give you some troubles. But I will say the photos out of the camera are absolutely fantastic already. I shoot with the monochrome high contrast, and to me they're just perfect. I may have to adjust a little bit of lighting and shadows, but nowhere near as much editing time as I used to have with any other photos, which is a big plus for me. Everybody talks about the Leica vibe. I know Peter McKinnon did like a whole vibe thing. And in all honesty, it's true. It's hard to explain what makes this camera so damn good. The color science, they're doing some sort of black wizardry magic over in Leica, but the quality and the feeling of these photographs are perfect. You know, in my wildlife work, I was really excited because I'm able to capture these really delicate moments with human interacting with wildlife in ways that nobody could ever imagine. and the feeling, it's kind of like this weird nostalgia, feel-good kind of vibe. This camera has definitely inspired me to shoot way more than any other camera I've ever owned. Now, with it inspiring me to shoot, I've been shooting with this camera in manual mode. So I like to take control of my ISO, my shutter speed, and my focus myself. I know it has face detection focus or like moving focus and different focus brackets. I know that you can set it on different modes, but I haven't really touched on any of those because I just really enjoy the aspect of being able to make these micro adjustments on the fly. But I've just enjoyed the kind of manual feeling of moving everything around. Everything has a haptic noise to it, even going from the normal lens to macro mode, for example. You can switch some of the buttons around to match whatever menu style you like. I know for me, that little back wheel, I use it to swap over my ISO to make it a little easier, but everything is super clear. The touchscreen is super fluid and easy to use, and it has just been a breeze of a camera to use. Of course, the big question with a lot of these videos is it worth it? It's $6,000. Yes, it's a ton of money. For me personally, being able to find one gently used has been a lifesaver, and I recommend you do the same. Hell yeah, go out there and experience different things, but don't get yourself in a financial debt just to get something that's definitely hyped up and definitely get some hate, I mean, whatever way you see it. So definitely try and find one used if you can, and I would highly recommend going out there and even renting one if you wanted to, just because keep in mind when you buy these cameras, at least for the Q2, you end up losing a lot of money. A lot of the secondary prices that I've seen are anywhere from $1,000 to as much as $2,000 to $3,000 under retail price. So get your hands on one if you can by renting or buying secondary before you pull the trigger. In my opinion, the camera is absolutely worth it. Like I said, it's super easy to use. There's a lot of attractive features on it that outweigh the cons, like video, for example, which I don't even bother trying, and some of the other little things like the autofocus being a bit spotty. But with the last 4 months of me owning it, I can confidently say that it has inspired me to shoot a lot more. And to me, that is absolutely priceless. I've been wanting to dive into photography, and I'm glad that this has been a venue for me to, a vessel for me to try that and inspire myself and hopefully inspire others. I mean, I've never considered adding photography to my video packages for clients, and now that I have this camera and I'm getting more experience and kind of training with it, it's definitely something I'm considering. The soul of this camera is absolutely beautiful, and I definitely think it's something that should be experienced in any way possible. So my opinion is, yes, I highly recommend it. I think if you are a die-hard photographer, if you have the available funds, you should absolutely purchase one because there is something really special here. So I hope this video gives you just a little bit more real-life insight, you know, aside from the specs and all that stuff, on maybe why you should buy a Q2 or maybe why you shouldn't buy a Q2 or rent a Q2. But definitely enjoyed chatting with you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to my rambling. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on Leica, whether it's positive or negative, and I'll be catching you guys on the next video.